On the 5th year of our marriage. He went to a class reunion alone without telling me. When he came back, he was drunk. His hazy gaze fixed on me with unmistakable disdain in his voice. You know, I could have made a much better choice. A choice without regret? How could there be no regret? If only I could go back to 5 years ago. How great that would be. That night, I finished the rest of the wine on the table, swallowing the pain that felt like knives twisting in my stomach. When I woke up, I found myself back in the year we graduated from college. Standing outside the dormitory, I saw him holding a bouquet of flowers, excitedly knocking on the door next to mine. I hugged my books and walked out without looking back. This time, I wouldn't lose my life to him again. When Grace pushed me awake, tears were still hanging at the corners of my eyes. Emily, did you have a nightmare? I jolted upright, my mind still foggy. I just ran into Ryan on my way to buy breakfast. He was holding a huge bouquet of roses and came straight toward us. He looked really excited. I glanced around in shock, unable to believe what I was seeing. This was my college dorm room. I pinched myself hard. It hurt. Grace, pinch me. Hard. Her mouth twitched, but she did as I asked. The pain snapped me into full clarity. My mind still echoed with Ryan's last hateful words from my dream. You know, I could have made a much better choice. If only I could go back to 5 years ago. And now, I really had returned to 5 years ago. Tears welled up again as the realization hit me. Grace, startled, anxiously asked what kind of terrifying nightmare I'd had. Looking at her youthful, innocent face, I shook my head. There was no need to scare a bright-eyed college student with the story of a failed marriage. From downstairs, a commotion rose. Grace grabbed my hand excitedly. Ryan must be here to confess to you. I checked the calendar. Yes, on this day in my previous life. It was the anniversary of our relationship. Ryan and I met through the school club, sharing a love for movies and novels. We quickly became close. He could sing, dance, write plays, and host events. He was the center of attention at school. Whenever we sat on the field discussing movies, girls would often come over to ask for his contact information. He would always wave them off with a smile, saying he forgot his phone. I like girls who can watch the sunset with me, he once said, out of nowhere, in a voice so soft it was almost inaudible. Blushing, I hastily said goodbye. Flustered. Later, he wrote a post on the confession wall, where every detail matched me perfectly. My friend Lily assured me he would confess to me today. When I stepped outside, the noise from the crowd grew louder. Before long, that familiar figure appeared at the corner, holding a bouquet of roses. Ryan. It's really Ryan. So many roses. Is he going to confess to Bella from dorm 202? Not sure. But let's go see. I didn't move forward. The next second, I locked eyes with Ryan. His gaze swept over me briefly before he stopped in front of the door next to mine. It wasn't Bella. I let out a sigh, hugged my books, and walked away. Ryan, I hope this time you have no regrets about your choice. 2 days later, news of Ryan's heartfelt confession to Sophia spread across the school. Some nosy classmates came to me, curious. Emily, wasn't Ryan's confession on the wall clearly about you? What's going on with Sophia? Yeah, I heard Sophia tried to ask him out before but got rejected. What's happening now? I pulled out a mock exam paper and waved them off. It's all a misunderstanding. They're the perfect couple. It has nothing to do with me. Ryan and I were just in the same club, so we occasionally worked on some tasks together. That's all. Grace looked at me sympathetically and helped me fend them off. Ryan. Grace started to say but stopped when someone called my name. Emily. I turned to see Sophia. The room fell silent, and everyone curious glanced our way. Why was she looking for me? To show off? But Ryan had never publicly hinted at anything between us. At best, I was just a cooperative club member. Can I help you? Sophia, tall and bold in her dress, was undeniably striking, but her first words erased any trace of admiration I had. Ryan is swamped with work at the club today. Why didn't you help him? Can't you be a bit more responsible? The slight respect I had evaporated instantly. First, you're not a club member, so I'm not obligated to listen to your accusations. Second, I informed the club leader of my resignation days ago, and handed over all my responsibilities. Next time, please spend a few minutes thinking before making baseless accusations. I met her gaze calmly. If I could avoid it, I didn't want to have anything to do with her. Ryan chose her, and I was happy to stay out of it. Drunken words often reveal true feelings, and Ryan's careless remark had shown me my true place in his heart. What once was pure and innocent love had been corrupted in the grind of marriage. When he started to feel disgusted by my out-of-shape body, did he ever think that once, back in school, I was the star of the stage? After our marriage, because of his health issues, we couldn't hear any news of a new life coming into the world. Emily, I really want us to have a child, he said, longing to make our love and marriage feel complete. For that dream, I accompanied him to countless treatments, trying to improve his condition, but the results were minimal. Under the mounting pressure, his words began to take a different tone, subtly placing blame on me. I only worked so hard because I wanted to give you a better life. I've been so tired that I neglected my health. Emily, couldn't you pay more attention to me? Shifting part of the responsibility onto me seemed to ease his burden. If the blame was shared, he didn't have to carry it all alone. I started to feel anxious. I didn't know what else I could do to make things better for him. When I saw him secretly wiping his tears, I panicked, feeling as though I had become the guilty party. To ease his burden, I worked even harder. Sometimes I skipped meals, rushing to meet deadlines so I could earn more and lighten his load. No matter how late I came home, I ensured every household chore, big or small, was taken care of. Your health isn't great, you should rest more. I'd tell him, only for him to grow angry and give me the cold shoulder. The words "your health isn't great" touched a sensitive nerve in him. In the end, I was the one apologizing, finding ways to make peace. Yet, as hope dwindled, Ryan fell into deeper despair. Eventually, we turned to IVF. With that, Ryan seemed revitalized. He cheerfully handed over all the responsibilities and pressures to me. The care and concern I once showered on him were never reciprocated. Don't overthink it. Stress makes it harder to conceive, and all our time, money, and energy would be wasted. Don't stay up late. Stop eating unhealthy food. How many times do I have to tell you? If you're stressed, it's because you don't have enough to do. Find something to keep yourself busy at home. The burden of severe anxiety, physical exhaustion, and the pause in my career hit me all at once. My eating habits became erratic. My biological clock fell out of sync, and sleepless nights stretched endlessly. My body changed rapidly, and I lost my confidence, my composure, and my happiness. Looking back at how I struggled in the depths of pain, I barely recognized myself. That bright, passionate young woman who once poured her heart into writing 8,000-word movie reviews, sobbed over novels, or biked 2 hours just to enjoy some fried snacks. That version of me blurred further and further into the past, eventually vanishing completely in my marriage with Ryan. You don't know the rules, do you? Don't think you can act so high and mighty just because you helped Ryan a few times before. Okay. I remained indifferent and turned to leave, but Sophia stepped in front of me, blocking my path. What's wrong with you? I asked, genuinely curious. Did I not make myself clear enough? Or do you just not understand plain English? Anger flared across Sophia's face. Watch your mouth. And you think you can just quit the club whenever you want? What do you think this is? Your personal playground? Quitting the club requires a handwritten 10,000 word application. Got it? A 10,000 word application. I almost laughed out loud. Oh, what if I just don't write it? Then forget about quitting. Whatever tasks we assign you, you'll do them, she said, crossing her arms with a smug air, as though she were the queen of the club. That moment, Ryan strode over. When his eyes landed on me, he hesitated for a second. I steadied myself, meeting his gaze. So, quitting the club now requires a 10,000 word handwritten application. I asked coolly, is that your rule? Should we escalate this to the United Nations? Ryan frowned at my sarcasm and turned to Sophia. What's going on? Sophia, why are you so upset? Now I was the outsider, so naturally, he sought the explanation from his girlfriend. Sophia's anger melted into sweetness. her voice taking on a delicate tone. Ryan, I was just explaining the process for quitting the club. Maybe Emily misunderstood me because she's not in a great mood today. I let out a bitter laugh. How bored must she have been to come here and put on such a show? Ryan patted her head affectionately, his demeanor full of indulgence. My girlfriend's a little naive, so don't take her words too seriously. If you're quitting the club because of me. He trailed off, sneaking a glance at Sophia. Sophia pursed her lips. I cut him off before he could finish. No, Ryan, I'm not quitting because of you. I simply don't have the time or energy anymore. Men like him seem to have a built-in arrogance, assuming every action others took somehow revolved around them. Ryan's expression faltered, a faint smirk of disbelief tugging at his lips. So, Ryan, I continued, does quitting the club really require a 10,000-word handwritten application? Sophia chimed in, hinting that there had once been such a rule. Ryan's response was vague. I shrugged. Well, I'm not writing one. If it's truly necessary, feel free to contact my academic advisor or the faculty head to notify me. My bluntness only worsened Ryan's expression. Once, I might have softened my tone for him, but those days were long gone. I never withheld kind words from him. He said he loved my gentleness, my understanding nature, and the way I could always heal him at just the right moment. The me who once felt ecstatic at his compliments never imagined that, just a few years later, I would become his greatest regret. Back at the starting line in this new life, he decisively chose Sophia instead. I understood why. It all traced back to the class reunion during the 5th year of our marriage. Ryan went alone, not telling me, likely because he didn't want to bring along a woman who had become out of shape, worn out, and unemployed, a potential embarrassment in front of his peers. My college roommate, Grace, also attended that reunion. Seeing that I wasn't there, she kept updating me about everything that happened. Do you remember Sophia? The one who used to chase after your husband? She's even more stunning now, dripping in jewels. Apparently, she's a content creator making good money. And your husband? Out of all the seats, he just had to sit next to her. They seemed deep in conversation, even though it looked like Sophia wasn't too interested. Ryan kept fawning over her. Though, Grace sent me message after message, along with photos. In the pictures, Sophia looked radiant, leaning close to Ryan's ear, whispering something. Later, someone started egging them on to drink a toast together. Ryan, are you sure you want to drink that? Won't your wife make you kneel on a washboard when you get home? Ryan's gaze stayed glued to Sophia. He laughed and replied, if I get to drink with Sophia, a night on the washboard would be worth it. I hadn't seen that light-hearted, playful side of him in ages. Apparently, he only carried his gloom and weariness when he was with me. Even at night, he started making excuses to sleep in the guest room. I blamed myself for dragging him into a life of poverty and exhaustion. I blamed myself for his declining health. Standing in front of the mirror, I lifted my shirt to look at the countless needle marks on my body. Tears streamed down as I laughed bitterly. If I had another chance, I wouldn't tie my life to any man's choices. My future would belong to me alone. The drama surrounding my departure from the club finally came to an end. That evening, Ryan sent me a WeChat message out of the blue. Hello, Emily. I used to be nice to you because we shared common interests. If I gave you the wrong impression, I apologize. I have a girlfriend now and am very happy. I hope you find your happiness too. What was this? A preemptive move to make sure I wouldn't cling to him and ruin his shiny new life? I didn't even bother responding. I deleted and blocked him immediately. The days that followed were peaceful. My routine was simple: library, dorm, cafeteria. With grad school entrance exams approaching, I stayed at the library late into the night. To avoid disturbing my roommates, Grace and I decided to rent a small place near campus for studying. I rarely ran into Ryan and Sophia anymore. Word had it that Ryan had left the club as well, supposedly to spend more time with Sophia. When a man has a motive, he'll willingly make sacrifices. Just when I thought our paths would drift further and further apart, something unexpected happened. One evening, after running errands downtown, I came back late and, feeling exhausted, dozed off on the bus. I missed my stop and had to walk back. Passing by the entrance of a hotel, I saw Sophia. The arm around her waist wasn't Ryan's. A passerby suddenly bumped into me from behind, and my phone dropped to the ground with a loud clatter. "Sorry, miss. Is your phone okay?" he said apologetically, picking it up for me. Checked it. Apart from a small crack on the edge of the screen protector, everything else was fine. "It's okay," I replied. Sophia glanced over at us. I wasn't sure if she noticed me, but I left in a hurry. When I returned to the rental, Grace was practically shouting, "Ryan's at it again, showing off his love life." Curious, I peeked at her phone. It was a new post from Ryan's social media. "My baby's getting her hair done today. Can't wait to be blown away by how stunning she looks." Grace pouted. "Ugh, I swear, when I get next month's allowance, I'm going to get my hair done too. Money really does matter." Huh. An idea struck me, and I suddenly felt ridiculous for all the time I had wasted before. I went back to my room, intending to call my parents, but then realized it would take too long to explain. Since I had no classes and my studies were on track, I decided to just head home immediately. When I arrived, my parents were both surprised and delighted. "Emily, why didn't you let us know you were coming?" "Dad, Mom," I asked directly, "how much do we have saved up?" They exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions nervous. "Is something wrong? Are you in debt? Did you fall for a scam? Tell us it's not some online loan." My mom fired off questions, visibly anxious. "No, Mom," I said, trying to calm her down. I couldn't help but laugh. "Let me explain." My parents were even more astonished. "Buying a house? No, wait, 2 houses. But those places in that neighborhood are old, cramped, and run down," my mom said, turning to my dad and tapping her temple. "Do you think our daughter hit her head somewhere?" "Emily," she added, "if you really can't pass your exams, that's okay. Don't stress yourself too much." I sighed. I understood how sudden and strange this request sounded, but I couldn't let go of such a rare opportunity to make money. If only I could remember more about the financial details from 5 years later. Or, better yet, memorize a winning lottery number. "Mom, Dad, you have to trust me. I overheard a classmate talking on the phone in the library. That neighborhood is about to be rezoned into a prestigious school district. The property prices will quadruple soon. Their family has inside connections. You know what I mean." After a long, heartfelt conversation and considering my usual reliability, they reluctantly chose to believe me. The paperwork moved quickly. My parents used almost all their savings to make the down payments on 3 apartments. "Mom, maybe we should borrow some more money, or even sell our current house," I suggested. Before I could finish, my mom interrupted. "Emily, leave us some breathing room, please. We've already put nearly everything on the line." The night before, I hadn't slept a wink, worrying they might not agree. Now that they stood firm on this limit, I didn't push further. Feeling refreshed, I returned to school. "Emily, can we talk?" Ryan stopped me, looking visibly uneasy. "There's nothing for us to talk about," I replied curtly and tried to leave. "Wait," he said hurriedly. "Sophia has been acting distant with me lately. I don't know what I did wrong. I even noticed she changed her profile picture and her phone's lock screen password." I raised an eyebrow. "So, you're my only female friend. You're thoughtful and good at analyzing people. As a woman, why do you think she's acting like this?" That moment, I truly questioned if Ryan had lost his mind. Did he honestly expect me to play therapist for him? The same person who dismissed my opinions when we were married? 3 years into our marriage, I stumbled upon a social media post by one of his younger colleagues. It was a photo of her clinging to Ryan's arm, complete with heart-shaped filters. Worse, it was posted on Valentine's Day. Given all the coincidences, it was impossible not to read too much into it. But when I confronted Ryan, he rubbed his temples impatiently. "She's just a kid who sees me as a mentor. Posting that was probably just for fun. I hardly even talked to her. If you don't believe me, you can check my phone." "Emily, your analysis is too much. You're being paranoid," he added dismissively. Already anxious and sensitive, his words kept me up for several nights. Back in the present, I looked at him steadily. "Clearly, you're not treating her well enough. She probably feels insecure." Ryan's face darkened, but I couldn't suppress my cold amusement. Some men always think the grass is greener elsewhere, never satisfied with what they have. Emily, thank you. You're still as understanding as ever. Let me take you to lunch to show my gratitude. I cut him off immediately. No thanks. Eating with you would probably kill my appetite. After that, Ryan clung to Sophia even more tightly. Rumors swirled that they planned to marry right after graduation. The mere mention of the word marriage sent a shiver down my spine. The day before my grad school entrance exam, I packed early and prepared to rest. Excuse me, a male classmate said, approaching me. He had slightly messy hair, glasses, and starry, bright eyes. He was handsome, but I didn't recognize him. Hi, I'm Kevin Chun. I've been sitting diagonally across from you. You probably didn't notice me. Most of the textbooks you've been reading are the same ones I've been studying. What a coincidence. Good luck to both of us. Oh, and would it be okay if we added each other on WeChat? I politely declined, shaking my head with a smile. The new year that followed was the happiest one I'd had in a long time. As expected, the apartments we bought were rezoned, and their values skyrocketed. My family's tight financial situation suddenly improved. Grace, who had been skeptical, finally convinced her family to buy one apartment as well. When the new policy took effect, her parents were so thrilled they sent me a big package of local specialties as thanks. That spring festival, I had my parents' company, a new home to live in, and none of the burdens I had carried before. I didn't have to spend hours preparing a meal to cater to a man's picky tastes. I didn't have to don rubber gloves to wash endless dishes. I didn't have to down countless pills or endure bitter herbal medicine to try and conceive. Most importantly, I didn't have to lie in a cold hospital bed, enduring hundreds of painful injections. Before marriage, I never realized how much tedious, frustrating housework could pile up in a home, or how much tiny, trivial nonsense could dominate daily life. In the kitchen, my dad sat on a low stool, peeling vegetables. Old Meng, pass me the garlic. My mom called out. Sure thing, he replied cheerfully. Wash the green onions too. Got it. Bring me the rock sugar. Right away. Watching them work side by side, each immersed in their own small, happy tasks, I couldn't help but smile. This was what warmth and peace truly looked like. I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Emily, your results are out, Grace announced. After the interview phase, Grace and I both got accepted into the schools we had applied to. I suddenly became the dark horse in my class, the unexpected star. Congratulations. Ryan, persistent as ever, appeared again. He seemed overly enthusiastic, as if he had a condition that made him clingy. He even brought me my favorite sea salt cake. During our relationship, whenever we argued, all it took was a small cake like that to pacify me. I never thought he'd still remember. I didn't expect you to be this amazing. You're truly exceptional. But, just a friendly reminder, the job market isn't great for postgraduates. It might even be harder to find work after you graduate. Maybe consider live streaming or content creation, he said gently, adding in a quieter tone. But don't tell anyone else. Competition is fierce. I couldn't understand him. Why, after choosing to let me go, did he keep coming back? Acting like this? Did he pity me for not being the one he chose? Ryan, please don't contact me again. Thank you. I don't think we're even friends. Also, you have a girlfriend, so it's best to maintain some boundaries. The smile on his face faltered. I don't know why, but I always feel so lonely. Only when I see you. Before he could finish, I turned and went back to class. That morning, Grace told me Sophia had turned down Ryan's proposal, saying they were too young to get married and should wait a few years. I had to admit, Sophia was far more clear-headed than I had been. On graduation day, I ran into Sophia at a cafe. She walked straight up to me. I didn't expect you not to tell anyone about what you saw that day, she said. I paused, then smiled lightly. I don't have a habit of meddling in other people's business. Besides, what I saw might not even have been real. That man could have been your brother or cousin. Or there could be another explanation. I don't have the time, energy, or obligation to investigate someone else's personal matters. Nor would I spread unverified rumors. When I left, The barista told me Sophia had already paid for my bill. Under Ryan's suggestion, Sophia started her career as a live streamer early. With her striking appearance, sweet voice, and chatty nature, she gained moderate popularity within a few months. Ryan became her moderator and manager. Her bio listed her as single. I had to admit, her stamina was impressive. Sometimes, even late at night, I'd stumble upon her streams, where she called viewers brother, honey, or darling without stopping for breath. Ryan's posts, once filled with pictures and videos of Sophia, now showed no trace of her. At my new school, I discovered a wider world, though it was sometimes hectic. With high demands from my advisor, it was nothing compared to my married life. In marriage, my efforts had only yielded disappointment. Here, my hard work brought recognition and a sense of self-worth. When the national scholarship list was published, I was surprised to see a familiar name, Kevin Chun. At the freshman welcome meeting, we exchanged WeChat contacts. Though our research fields are slightly different, we can share tips and information if something useful comes up, he said with an easy confidence, showing no trace of awkwardness from my earlier rejection. I nodded and shook his hand politely. From then on, we became each other's go-to collaborators in research projects. Just before graduation, Ryan showed up again, relentless as a ghost. He stopped me while my phone screen was still on a trending topic. Sophia and her top-ranking fan accused of having an affair. Emily, you have to help me this time, Ryan said. His eyes red and panicked. His unshaven face, gaunt cheeks, and puffy eyes told me he'd been in a bad state. His unhealthy complexion hinted at the toll of late nights spent managing Sophia's streams, a lifestyle his weak body couldn't handle. When we were married, Ryan often fell sick. A simple cold or fever would require 4 drips to recover. Now, he looked even worse than back then. I felt no pity, only a bitter amusement. At least he couldn't blame me for his state this time. With people bustling around the campus gate, I didn't want to stand there with him. Still, I was curious about what he needed from me. What do you want? I asked. We went to a nearby cafe, where I urged him to explain. Sophia, I can't believe she treated me like this, Ryan began. He explained that Sophia's streaming account was entirely under her name, meaning all the income went directly to her. She only gave him a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan. 3,000, he repeated, his voice breaking as if on the verge of tears. I stirred my coffee and replied, well, as you said, the job market isn't great. 3,000 seems reasonable. Realizing what he'd said earlier, he coughed awkwardly. That's not even the worst part, he continued. She's my girlfriend, so I didn't mind at first. But I need to grow my own career too. I suggested starting a couples channel, but she flatly refused. Then I found out she's been getting close to her top-ranking fan for a while now. Ryan slammed the table in frustration, his voice trembling with anger. I couldn't stomach the injustice. I wanted fairness, so I exposed what was happening. In retaliation, he recruited trolls and his fans to smear me, calling me a freeloader and gold digger. Ryan looked at me, disbelief written all over his face. Emily, help me. I know you understand me. You know I'm not that kind of person, he continued, his voice growing desperate. And I overheard something before. She was on the phone with someone, talking about how back in college, before graduation, she went to a hotel with another man behind my back. Did you know about that? Did you see her? His eyes blazed with anger, almost burning. Emily, you have to testify for me. You have to prove that she's a morally corrupt woman, and that I'm not just some spineless freeloader. You're a fellow graduate from a prestigious school. Your words carry weight. He buried his head in his hands, as if he couldn't bear the weight anymore. I can't let myself regret this any longer. I've already lost too much. I finished the last sip of my coffee and stood up. Thank you for providing such an entertaining story for my afternoon tea. But I have things to do. Ryan's eyes widened in shock. He hurriedly reached out to grab my hand, but I smoothly avoided him. Emily, I know you're still mad about me choosing Sophia over you, but I had my reasons. That moment, the door swung open, and in walked Sophia. She froze for only a second before regaining her composure. Ryan, we need to talk, she said coolly. Let's part on good terms. Or you'll be the one who loses out. I suddenly realized how nosy I'd become. Who would have thought that the same person who used to mock Grace for loving gossip would now linger at a nearby table, pretending to clean up my things just to listen more intently than I ever had in class? Sophia's solution was straightforward. She would pay Ryan his salary at market rates. They would delete all videos featuring each other, and the relationship would end peacefully. Ryan's face turned red with fury. Why? Now that you've gained some fame and money, you're just going to kick me to the curb? Do you know how much I... He started coughing violently, his face reddening further. Sophia stepped back, covering her nose with disdain. What's wrong with you? Stop acting like you've sacrificed so much. All you did was stay up late. Do you think I wasn't staying up too? I'm the one singing, dancing, and chatting on camera. If you're not happy and your body can't handle it, then quit. Go find another job. The words "your body can't handle it" hit a nerve. Ryan's face darkened even more. Sophia, how dare you? He shouted. You went to a hotel with another man during college, and now you're accusing me of freeloading? How could someone like you exist? Sophia frowned, dabbing at her face with a compact. Back then, we barely spoke, but after a little chase, you confessed to me. Let's not pretend. You were only attracted to my looks. Why would you care about anything else? Did I stop you from enjoying yourself? My face and body haven't changed. Why take things so seriously now? And for the record, it was late that night. We just booked a room to play mahjong. Is that illegal? Ryan was dumbfounded by her response. Sophia rolled her eyes. And look at yourself. Ryan, every piece of clothing, every accessory, your shoes, your watch, even your phone. I bought all of it. Could you afford any of this on your own? Getting called a freeloader really hits a nerve. Huh. Some men. The only thing stiff about them is their pride. I felt a strange urge to clap, my hands itching to applaud. Ryan stumbled out, his steps unsteady. As he passed my table, he muttered, "Thanks." I was puzzled. I hadn't done anything. What was he thanking me for? Enjoyed the show? Sophia asked, her tone as arrogant as ever. Well, you got a free performance, so we're even now. At the counter, she tried to pay, but the cashier stopped her. That lady already covered your bill. I picked up my bag, smiled at her, and said, now we're even. After calming down, Ryan must have realized he had no leverage. He deleted the videos and completely exited Sophia's live streaming world. Before long, he opened his own account and started creating content. Thanks to his looks, he initially attracted some followers, but his infrequent posting, rough editing, and lack of improvement hindered his growth. He was far from monetizing his efforts. That year, I graduated. To my delight, I secured an internship at a prominent company and was even invited to participate in a workplace reality show. Surprisingly, Kevin Chun was also among the invitees. For the first time, I stepped into the spotlight. I constantly reminded myself to tread carefully with my words and actions. Luckily, every evening, Grace was there to chat with me, helping to ease my nerves. What I didn't expect was that many online viewers started shipping me and Kevin Chun as a couple. Both of our platform accounts saw a surge in followers. Emily is exactly my ideal image of a professional woman. She embodies the strength and wisdom of women perfectly. Some of the compliments even made me blush. Earning recognition from other women felt incredibly rewarding. I explained multiple times that Kevin and I were just classmates who collaborated well. Nothing more. That evening, after drying my hair, I heard a commotion downstairs. From the balcony, I spotted Ryan holding a megaphone. Emily, I regret it. First, I didn't want to go down, but Ryan stood his ground, refusing to leave. The crowd of onlookers kept growing, and I couldn't sit still anymore. What are you doing? Recreating meteor shower? I asked, my tone cold. Seeing my indifference, he let out a bitter laugh. Emily, you might not believe me, but I had a dream. In the dream, we were married. You were so good to me, and I was happy. We even. I raised my hand to cut him off. Stop. And were you good to me? Was I happy? Ryan fell silent. The grievances I endured over 5 years, though faded in memory, still ached when recalled. He opened his mouth but couldn't speak. After a long pause, his hoarse voice finally came out. When I woke up, I realized what my heart truly wanted. I was wrong. Emily. So wrong. That was just a dream, wasn't it? I said quietly. Ryan, I stopped loving you a long time ago. Tears welled in his eyes as he choked up. Some people in the crowd shouted things like, marry him, or forgive him. They only saw these few minutes of his supposed sincerity, not the years of suppression and torment I endured. Their careless comments carried no weight on my life. Hearing me call his name, Ryan froze, a tear slipping down his face. He looked terrible, completely worn down. Once, the old me might have felt heartache seeing him like this, might have done everything to make him happy again, might have blamed myself for not doing enough. But that was the old me. Every choice has consequences. Ryan, understand that this is my answer, I said. His expression shifted as if he'd grasped something. Tell me, Emily, are you reborn too? Is that why you know so much? He grabbed my arm, his voice tinged with madness. I pulled away, glaring at him. What are you talking about? Rebirth? I don't understand. Still muttering to himself, Ryan repeated. It must be a coincidence. Did I really make the wrong choice? I called security to escort the disoriented Ryan out. After the internship ended, we nervously awaited the results. Kevin, another talented colleague, and I received offers. A new chapter of my life unfolded before me. That evening, I bought Grace a gift. If it weren't for you being my daily source of joy, I might not have gotten the offer, I said, laughing. Grace, thrilled, shared some news. Tomorrow night is the university reunion. Let's go together and dress to impress. I'm wearing the new dress you bought me. Hearing about the reunion made me pause. I remembered the overweight, haggard version of myself in the mirror back then, Ryan's look of disgust, and the photos of him and Sophia. It all felt like a distant memory now. Sure, I replied. When Grace and I arrived at the reunion, applause greeted us. Wow, isn't that our star? Emily Meng, the genius herself. You were amazing on TV. I regret not pursuing you back then. Give it a rest. Do you think someone like Emily would settle for you? Their exaggerated comments nearly overwhelmed me, but Grace pushed through the crowd. If you want an autograph, line up. The chaos finally settled when Sophia walked in, still as charming and radiant as ever. A few male classmates immediately surrounded her, asking about her income and relationship status. It's just a way to make a living, she said modestly. Nothing compared to Emily Meng. Do you even know what her company's annual salary is? It'd scare you if I told you. Once again, Sophia deftly shifted the conversation back to me. As we chatted, the class monitor asked about Ryan. Why isn't Ryan here today? I remember sending him the invite, he said. A classmate from Ryan's hometown chimed in. He's been seriously ill recently, even had surgery. Probably couldn't come because of his health. Not everyone can handle the demands of live streaming, I guess. True. Honestly, with his abilities, he could have landed a decent job right after graduation. Someone added. Just then, the door opened. Sorry, I'm late, Ryan said, drawing everyone's attention as he walked in. He looked like a completely different person. The once dashing and confident campus heartthrob now resembled someone battling a serious illness. Ryan, are you okay? Someone asked. His face was pale, but he forced a smile. Thank you for asking. I'm fine now. Sophia rolled her eyes and placed her bag on an empty chair nearby. Ryan's eyes, however, were fixed directly on me. That day, I was wearing a fitted red dress that Grace had picked out for me, paired with a delicate necklace. My hair was styled in loose waves. Trust me, this look is perfect for you, Grace had said confidently. Now, under Ryan's intense gaze, I felt slightly uncomfortable. He took the seat next to me. Emily, you look beautiful today, he said softly. Thank you, I replied curtly, then turned to chat with Grace, ignoring him completely. To my surprise, Sophia approached me and struck up a conversation. Emily, would you consider joining me in my live stream for a casual chat? She asked, smiling sweetly. Other classmates overheard and joined in. Sophia, your calculations are so obvious they're hitting us in the face. Emily would bring a huge fan base to your stream. Emily, I'd love it if you followed me too. Another joked. Should I record a vlog of this reunion? I shrug. I'm way too busy to spare any time. Sorry. Sophia glared playfully at the others. You guys are stealing my thunder. HM. Throughout the evening, she didn't say a word to Ryan. Ryan. One classmate asked. That product you recommended to me last time didn't work. I checked, and it doesn't even have the proper certifications. I'll bring it to you later, so you can refund my money. Facing curious stares from others, Ryan replied awkwardly. I'll take a look. You should really check the companies you work with. Offering products like that is risky. Maybe it's time to switch jobs. Yeah, bigger companies are more reliable. Someone chimed in. Look at Emily's company. People would do anything to get in there. Ryan nodded hesitantly. Emily's impressive. I couldn't get in somewhere like that. Through the meal, he looked uneasy, as if sitting on pins and needles. Sitting next to him, I felt a faint sense of pity, but it didn't affect my appetite. As we were leaving, Ryan quietly called my name. Emily, I have something for you, he said, holding out an envelope. Whether you believe it or not, he continued, I've wanted to give you this for years. After college graduation, I wrote this letter for you but never had the courage to deliver it. Now, I want to give it to its rightful owner. Once you read it, you might understand my true feelings. His trembling hands and earnest expression made him look like a heartbroken character in a romance drama. Are you sure this is for me? It belongs to me now, I asked, taking the letter. He nodded, relieved. I walked outside, with Ryan following closely behind. Spotting a cleaning staff member entering with a trash bag, I called out to them. Excuse me, I said lightly, and then I dropped the letter into their trash bag. This garbage isn't mine to keep, I said casually. The footsteps behind me stopped, quickened my pace, linked arms with grace, and left the restaurant. After that night, I rarely heard anything about Ryan again. The only mention was in the class group chat, where there was a crowdfunding effort for his medical expenses. At the class monitor's request, I contributed my share, and that was the end of it. When the earthquake struck, I was crushed while trying to save my boyfriend, Lucas, and ended up paralyzed from the neck down. But instead of staying by my side, he turned around and married my foster sister, Lily, the epitome of a sweet-talking backstabber. While they walked hand in hand into their happily ever after, I was left in the care of a psychotic nurse who tortured me until I died. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn, back to the very day of the earthquake. This time, when Lucas begged me desperately to save him, I turned around and walked away without hesitation. Let him die. Summer, save me. Lucas's cries echoed in my ears as I snapped back to reality. He was trapped, his legs pinned beneath heavy rubble. Around me, the sound of collapsing buildings and crumbling walls reminded me of the nightmare I had just escaped. I had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite everything. In my past life, I had recklessly thrown myself into the ruins to save Lucas, shielding him with my body just as the concrete slabs came crashing down. I ended up severely paralyzed while Lucas escaped with only minor injuries. He had even knelt by my hospital bed, swearing to stay with me forever. Yet not long after, he married Lily. My parents, once heartbroken for me, gradually shifted their attention to her, lavishing her with the love and care that should have been mine. Abandoned, I was left to rot in misery until my untimely death. Summer, please, I'm begging you. Lucas's desperate cries grew fainter as I turned my back on him and sprinted toward safety. Without me to shield him, how could he possibly escape unscathed? Let him fend for himself. When I saw Lucas again, he was lying in a hospital bed with a critical condition notice hanging over him. After several emergency surgeries, he survived, but just barely. His legs had been shattered and amputated, his face disfigured beyond recognition, and his prognosis as a potential vegetative state was grim. Hearing this, I nearly laughed out loud but managed to restrain myself. Feigning heartbreak, I wept bitterly at his bedside, playing the role of a devoted girlfriend to perfection. I even contacted his parents, urging them to help transfer him to a better hospital in the city for his recovery. His parents, devastated by his condition, fainted several times upon seeing him. They hired the best doctors they could afford, but the outcome remained the same. Lucas was now a cripple, unable to walk, let alone have children. Even his reproductive organs had been irreparably damaged in the collapse. Hearing this, his father nearly fainted again. Lucas was their only son, the sole heir to the family line. With him incapacitated, the family faced the end of their bloodline. That very night, his parents began looking into surrogacy options, a reaction I was all too familiar with. People grieve, yes, but not forever. Eventually, they move on and seek new forms of solace. In my previous life, my parents had similarly replaced me with Lily. Initially, they showed little sign of their disappointment, but as time went on, they openly embraced her as their perfect daughter. Smart, charming, and obedient. Everything they wanted in a child. They handed her the love, the privileges, and even the life that had once been mine. First, I didn't blame Lily, but as her provocations and schemes grew bolder, I saw her for what she truly was. She would visit me in the hospital, only to leave in tears, telling others not to blame me because it's my own fault for being so unlikable. She would flaunt her relationship with Lucas, forcing me to look at their intimate photos, delighting in my despair. Lucas, the man I had risked my life to save, allowed all of this to happen, even orchestrating some of it. It was he who had introduced Lily to my parents, urging them to take her in as their own. But this time, things would be different. I would expose every secret, every betrayal. After leaving the hospital, I drove home. My parents, relieved to see me safe, welcomed me back with open arms. Like Lucas, I was their only child. Without me, Lily would never have had the chance to replace me. Dad, Lucas may be crippled, but I don't want to abandon him. I'll take care of him until he wakes up, I said, watching as my father's expression softened with approval. That's my girl, he said, his pride evident. In his eyes, I was the daughter who could do no wrong, brilliant, capable, and his greatest accomplishment. But I knew better. To him, pride was irreplaceable, but the person who gave him that pride didn't necessarily have to be me. A month passed, and Lucas still hadn't woken up. I visited him daily, playing the role of a devoted caregiver, while secretly basking in his parents' gratitude. They showered me with gifts, which I accepted without hesitation. But I wasn't doing this for free. One day, I took his parents to an orphanage. Uncle, Aunt, why not consider adoption? I suggested earnestly. They froze, staring at me in shock. I could see the mix of emotions in their eyes: confusion, hesitation, and maybe even relief. I knew what they were thinking. Their attempts at surrogacy had failed, and age was no longer on their side. Adoption seemed like their only viable option, especially since Lucas's distant relatives were already eyeing the family's wealth. Better to bring in an obedient child than let the vultures take over. Please, don't say no, I added, my voice sincere. I don't just represent myself. I also represent Lucas. Lucas has always been a filial son. How could he bear to let you two grow old in loneliness with no one to care for you? With reddened eyes, I held Mr. and Mrs. Liu's hands and led them into the orphanage. Though they hesitated, their eyes were quickly drawn to a group of lively, adorable children, their gazes softening with affection and anticipation. The words of refusal they initially mumbled were swallowed back, and before long, they were discussing which child seemed the most obedient and well-mannered. After a morning of careful consideration, they left the orphanage with a folder full of documents, looking quite satisfied. It didn't take long for them to finalize their decision. They adopted a 6-year-old boy and renamed him Luke, a name that symbolized a divine gift. They even held a grand adoption ceremony, inviting numerous influential families to celebrate. During the banquet, some guests whispered snide remarks about how heartless Mr. and Mrs. Liu were, accusing them of thinking about adopting a stranger while their son hadn't even passed away yet. I immediately stood up and rebuked them. Enough. You don't know anything. This was entirely my suggestion. As Lucas's girlfriend, it's my duty to fulfill his filial responsibilities in his absence. Seeing uncle and aunt in so much pain breaks my heart. Rather than let them continue to grieve, why not bring a child into their lives to help them heal? If Lucas wakes up, I'm sure he'll support my decision. I spoke with conviction and authority, my words resonating with the crowd. Mr. and Mrs. Liu were visibly moved, their eyes welling up with tears as they nodded in agreement with my assurance. The adoption process went smoothly. As we left the venue, Mrs. Liu held my hand and stuffed several sets of keys and property deeds into my arms, together worth an unimaginable fortune. On the way home, something unexpected happened. A girl suddenly darted out onto the road, stopping our car. The driver slammed the brakes, causing me and my parents to lurch forward violently. Once we steadied ourselves, I stepped out of the car and froze when I saw the girl. Her youthful yet vaguely familiar face brought a smile to my lips. Lily. Long time no see. The moment Lily saw me, her eyes widened in disbelief, and she stammered, "Summer, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be paralyzed?" Her words made our driver, Uncle Wang, frown. He waved her away, muttering about crazy people blocking cars and spouting curses. But Lily wasn't about to give up. She broke free from Uncle Wang's grip, ran to the car, and pounded on the windows. "Dad, Mom, it's me, Lily, your foster daughter. Don't you recognize me? Please, come out and see me." My parents, utterly bewildered by her erratic behavior, exchanged confused looks. My mother quickly pulled me back into the car, whispering, "Summer, let's go. She's clearly unhinged." Lily, hearing this, was devastated. Tears streamed down her face as she collapsed onto the ground, frantically recounting memories of the happy times she claimed to have shared with my parents. But her desperation only earned her a single word from my mother: crazy. In my past life, Lily had been adored and pampered by my mother, treated like a precious gem. She had never faced such rejection or humiliation. Even as our car sped away, I could still hear her heart-wrenching sobs fading into the distance. This incident barely registered with my parents, who simply dismissed her as a lunatic. But I understood perfectly. Lily had also been reborn. Like me, she remembered everything from our past lives. Based on the timeline, she should have been meeting my parents for the first time with Lucas's help. But now, with Lucas bedridden and no one to connect her to my family, she was panicking, desperate enough to throw herself in front of our car. Few days later, the investigation report on Lucas and Lily landed on my desk, a thick stack of papers detailing their clandestine relationship. It turned out the two of them had been involved for over 2 years. He, a wealthy young entrepreneur, she, a diligent and delicate white lotus. It didn't take long for them to fall for each other. At the time, Lucas was still dating me, pretending to be the perfect boyfriend while secretly betraying me. He had planned to replace me with Lily, but her background as a poor student made her an unfit match for the Liu family. That's why, in my past life, after I became paralyzed, he wasted no time positioning Lily as my substitute, using the excuse of filial piety to justify her presence in my parents' lives. What amused me most was learning that a year before the earthquake, Lucas had already been grooming Lily to imitate my behavior, even having her replicate my business ideas and strategies. Looking at the evidence, I realized that even without the earthquake, Lucas would have found a way to eliminate me, either through accidents or other schemes, to ensure Lily took my place. But I wasn't in a hurry to expose them. Revenge was best served cold, and I had plenty of time to make them pay for everything I had endured in my past life. Half a month later, news came from the hospital. Lucas had woken up. At the time, I was at the Liu residence, enjoying tea with Mrs. Liu and playing with Luke. When Mrs. Liu heard the news, her expression was a mixture of surprise and guilt. She clutched Luke tightly, unable to speak for a long moment. After all, everyone had assumed Lucas would remain in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. No one expected him to wake up. "Auntie, don't worry," I said with a calm smile. "Lucas is a filial son. He'll understand your decisions. And look at Luke. He's so adorable and well-behaved. I'm sure Lucas will love him too. Don't worry about a thing. I'll handle it." With my reassurance, Mrs. Liu finally left for the hospital. But the scene in Lucas's hospital room was even more chaotic than I had anticipated. The moment Lucas learned about the adoption, he went berserk, throwing anything within reach. His pale face twisted with rage, his voice hoarse from shouting, "You're all monsters. I'm not even dead yet. And you've already brought in a little bastard to replace me. The Liu family is mine. And no one's taking it from me. Lucas's outburst terrified Mr. and Mrs. Liu, especially little Luke, who had just been formally introduced to them. Despite his young age and visible fear, the boy bravely stood his ground, positioning his small body in front of his adoptive parents. Don't be scared, Mom and Dad. I'll protect you, he declared. In that moment, Mr. and Mrs. Liu were moved to tears. Without hesitation, they gave Lucas a few quick words and then left with Luke, their backs straight and determined, leaving no room for further argument. Lucas was utterly stunned, unable to comprehend how this newly adopted boy could so quickly replace him. The reason was simple. Luke was a prodigy. His natural talents were overwhelming. Not only did he pick up languages effortlessly, mastering conversational English in a matter of months, but he also excelled in the arts. At the adoption ceremony, his impromptu piano performance earned him high praise from a renowned music teacher, who even offered to take him on as a student. Academically, Luke was exceptional, understanding fifth-grade material while still in elementary school and consistently scoring perfect marks on tests. He had already become the darling of the elite circles, a small genius everyone admired. In contrast, Lucas had become nothing more than a source of disappointment, a crippled man who lashed out at everyone around him. His behavior only magnified the stark difference between him and Luke, who brought pride and joy to the Liu family. Lucas, can't you show some understanding? Do you know how many tears your parents have shed for you? How much pain they've endured? I said, my tone heavy with disappointment as I leveled my gaze at him. They've suffered enough. If they hadn't adopted Luke, they might not have made it. Do you want to drive them to their deaths? My words were sharp and unrelenting. Before he could respond, I slammed the door and walked out. Moments later, Lucas's furious screams erupted from the hospital room. I stood in the hallway, closing my eyes to savor the moment, a sense of relief washing over me. Don't blame me for being heartless. Everything I was doing now was exactly what Lucas had done to me in our past life. When I woke up paralyzed in my hospital bed back then, I found my parents and Lily sitting together, laughing and chatting like a happy family, while I lay there like a forgotten stranger. Lucas, instead of offering comfort, berated me for being ungrateful and narrow-minded, accusing me of driving my parents to despair by refusing to accept Lily. No one listened to me, and Lucas even dragged my parents away, leaving me alone to calm down. At least Lucas could still move his upper body now. In my past life, I had been completely paralyzed, unable to do anything but blink and speak. My suffering had been far greater than his. After I left, Lucas continued his tantrums for days. Initially, Mr. and Mrs. Liu were sympathetic, but his constant outbursts and his cruel insults toward Luke wore them down. Eventually, they stopped visiting the hospital altogether, claiming it was to give him time to reflect. They even instructed the nurses to refuse visitors, fearing Lucas's behavior would tarnish the family's reputation. I was the only exception. Having already integrated myself deeply into the Liu family, I was too trusted to be excluded. Not only did Mr. and Mrs. Liu treat me like their daughter, but Luke also adored me, calling me sister every chance he got. One day, Mrs. Liu held my hand and said, "Summer, once this storm passes, I want to officially adopt you as my goddaughter. You're such a good child. We're all so grateful for you." She didn't need to say the rest aloud. We both knew what she meant. With Lucas's condition, he would never marry or have a family. As a socialite from a wealthy family, it was unthinkable for me to spend my life tied to him. By becoming their goddaughter, I could maintain my ties to the Liu family without unnecessary complications. Over the next few days, I continued my routine visits to Lucas's hospital room. Each time, I would deliver a sharp critique, condemning his selfishness and lack of perspective. I didn't linger, always leaving after making my point, but my words took their toll. Lucas eventually broke, and in his desperation, he bribed a nurse to contact Lily, his beloved. Lily rushed to the hospital as soon as she got the news. When she saw Lucas, disfigured and crippled, she gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "Lucas, what happened to you? Don't scare me like this," she cried. She hadn't expected this outcome. In her mind, Lucas should have been saved, protected by my selfless sacrifice. When Lucas explained what had happened, she froze, her mind racing to piece everything together. Then, in a trembling voice, she recounted her own memories of our past life, confessing that she, too, had been reborn. The two of them spent hours going over everything, their resentment toward me growing with each revelation. In the end, they reached the same conclusion. Their suffering was my fault. If I hadn't been so selfish, if I had just sacrificed myself to save Lucas, none of this would have happened. They vowed to take revenge, to reclaim everything they believed I had stolen from them. Watching this scene unfold on the hospital's surveillance footage, I couldn't help but laugh. Truly, a scumbag and a manipulative woman were a perfect match, shameless to the core. Lucas soon began his next move. He adopted a new demeanor, shedding his previous anger and hostility. When I visited, he even managed to smile at me, as if trying to pretend that nothing had happened. But I wasn't fooled. Seeing Lucas like this, Mr. and Mrs. Liu eventually softened and began visiting the hospital frequently, often accompanied by their precious adopted son, Luke. Like most proud parents, they couldn't help but boast about their child's achievements. Every visit started with polite inquiries about Lucas's condition, but quickly veered into praise for Luke. "Lucas, you wouldn't believe it," Mr. Liu began one day, beaming with pride. "Luke got first place on his exams again yesterday, and when we got home, he even cooked dinner for us. Don't worry, son. When Luke grows up, he'll make something of himself and take good care of you." Each time, Lucas's face turned pale, then red. His teeth clenched so hard it seemed they might crack. Outwardly, he nodded and praised Luke along with them, but inside, he was seething with hatred, wishing he could swallow Luke whole. After enduring this for a month, Lucas finally snapped. One day, he couldn't hold back any longer and blurted out his demand. "Mom, Dad, I want to marry Summer." The room fell silent. Lucas, sensing the tension, quickly added, "I know I'm a cripple and that I don't deserve her, but I love her. She loves me too. I know Summer would never abandon me." When no one immediately responded, Lucas gritted his teeth and threatened, "If you don't agree, I'll kill myself." Spotting me entering the room, he lunged forward, grabbing my hand and dragging me closer. "Summer, let's go get our marriage license. I've already picked the date." His outburst drew a crowd outside the door. Onlookers began whispering, pointing fingers, and even live-streaming the scene. Some muttered that Lucas had been injured while saving me, hinting that if I refused to marry him, I would be ungrateful and heartless. Lucas upped the drama, pulling out a knife and pressing it to his neck. "Summer," he declared, tears streaming down his face, "I saved you willingly. I won't force you, but I won't live with this shame. I'll end it now." The spectacle escalated. The crowd turned on me, shouting accusations. How heartless can she be? He saved her life. What's wrong with marrying him? He's a hero. The situation spiraled out of control. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Mr. Liu suddenly stormed forward, snatching the knife from Lucas's hands. "Enough," he bellowed. "Your mother and I have already adopted Summer as our goddaughter. From now on, you're siblings. One father, one mother. Stop this nonsense." Mr. Liu's words silenced the crowd, and Mrs. Liu, who had remained quiet until now, delivered the final blow. "Lucas, you're not just crippled. You've also lost your ability to have children. Marrying Summer would ruin her life. Who would want to be a widow for the rest of their days?" The crowd gasped. The realization spread like wildfire. "Wait, he can't," someone whispered. "Then what's the point? Marrying him would be a waste." Voices shifted from sympathy to mockery. "His parents are amazing, though. Saving that girl from a life of misery. Good for them." Lucas's face turned dark as coal. His fists clenched, his expression so furious it was almost laughable. But the humiliation wasn't over. Being publicly shamed, especially on such a personal topic, was unbearable for anyone, let alone Lucas, who prided himself on his masculinity. And worst of all, the person who revealed it was none other than his own mother. Before he could recover, another person stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. "Fine. Don't marry him. But he saved your life. Didn't he? At least split your family's fortune with him. It's the least you can do. Lucas, catching my eye, smirked smugly. He clearly thought his plan was working, banking on the lack of surveillance during the earthquake. He had spun a tale of heroism, hoping to guilt me into submission, even if I denied it. He figured the court of public opinion would side with him. Either way, he had nothing to lose. But before I could respond, the doors burst open, and a group of reporters rushed in. Cameras flashed as they bombarded me with questions. Ms. Zhou, can we interview you? You risked your life multiple times to save over 10 trapped victims in the disaster zone. What are your thoughts? Ms. Zhou, the nation is calling you a hero. Will you attend the upcoming award ceremony? The room fell into stunned silence. A curious reporter, noticing the confusion, turned on a nearby TV. Every channel was running the same story. Headlines read, "Young woman bravely rescues over 10 victims." "Heroine from prominent family praised for selflessness." And "Corporate heiress risks all for others." Photos and videos accompanied the news, showing me darting through the rubble, navigating the chaos with precision, and carrying injured victims to safety. The footage, though grainy, left no doubt. It was me, covered in blood and dust. I worked tirelessly until the rescue teams arrived. Then, without seeking recognition, I disappeared. The room's attention shifted to Lucas. Everyone stared at him, their expressions a mix of pity and disdain. It didn't take a genius to realize I hadn't needed saving. Lucas's claims crumbled under the weight of the evidence. He stammered, his face pale. Maybe I remembered it wrong. The crowd erupted into laughter and murmurs. Mr. and Mrs. Liu looked ready to collapse from embarrassment, their disappointment palpable. On the drive home, none of us said a word. I unlocked my phone, and just as I expected, the internet was ablaze with criticism and mockery directed at Lucas. The events in the hospital room had been live-streamed, but while Lucas's hired people had cut the feed when things turned sour, mine had not. I had even invested in extra bandwidth to ensure this moment was recorded and shared widely. Yes, I had known about Lucas's schemes all along. The hospital room was under surveillance, and today's dramatic reversal had been entirely within my expectations. Mr. and Mrs. Liu siding with me was inevitable. Our close relationship played a part. But what sealed the deal was me revealing Lucas's betrayal. He had secretly sold classified company documents to competitors as part of his plan to retaliate against his parents. With such treachery uncovered, the Lius were livid enough to want to disown him entirely. As for the earthquake rescue, it was all true. After leaving Lucas behind, I had been heartbroken as I witnessed the devastation, the shattered walls, the cries of the injured. It reminded me of the suffering I had endured in my past life, and I couldn't stand idly by. I wanted to save them. Armed with my knowledge of the terrain from my past life and my decent physical condition, I threw myself into rescue efforts. Even though I was injured along the way, persevered. I couldn't bear to let others experience the same pain I once had. After the rescue, I quietly left. Not out of altruism but because I wanted the credit to come at the most opportune moment. Like earlier today. As for Lily, she was currently sitting in a police station, waiting for someone to bail her out. Lucas had personally chosen her to steal confidential Liu Corporation documents. Mr. Liu, enraged beyond words, had already instructed his lawyers to reject any settlement offers. Lily's actions carried serious legal consequences, and even if her trial didn't lead to a conviction, prison time was still a possibility. But I wasn't particularly concerned with her fate at the moment. I had too much on my plate. Over the next few days, I was swamped with interviews from television networks and media outlets, filming official programs, and managing company affairs. My heroic deeds had caused my family's company stocks to soar, reaching unprecedented heights. My father, already preparing for retirement, accelerated his plans to hand over the company to me. Meanwhile, my mother basked in the limelight, attending events and proudly listening to everyone praise me, her smile practically glowing. Mr. Liu, as a gesture of gratitude, reclaimed the shares Lucas held and gifted a portion of them to me under the guise of a goddaughter's inheritance. Everything was falling perfectly into place. Then, out of the blue, news came from the detention center. Lily was pregnant. first, this seemed irrelevant, but she claimed the child belonged to Lucas. Shocked and panicked, Mr. and Mrs. Liu rushed to verify the claim. According to the doctor's diagnosis, Lily was 4 months pregnant, with the fetus developing normally, for months just before the earthquake. Initially, the Lius were skeptical, but Lily presented what she called undeniable evidence: photos, messages, and other proof of her relationship with Lucas. Her certainty began to sway them. When Lucas heard the news, his entire demeanor changed. For the first time in weeks, he found a spark of energy, insisting on caring for Lily despite his injuries. It didn't take a genius to see the truth. The two had been involved for a long time. A paternity test was almost unnecessary. When the results confirmed the child was Lucas's, Mr. and Mrs. Liu were both astonished and elated. This child was now the Liu family's only heir, their last hope to continue the family line. Overnight, Lily's status skyrocketed. She was no longer just an accomplice but a mother carrying the Liu family's future. Her arrogance grew along with her position. She began making excessive demands, first insisting on moving into a luxurious mansion, then acquiring designer clothes and bags. If she was even slightly dissatisfied, she would threaten to harm herself and the baby. Mr. and Mrs. Liu, though resentful, swallowed their anger for the sake of the unborn child. But Lily wasn't satisfied. She wanted marriage, not just a simple union, but a grand wedding to solidify her place in the family. This put Mr. and Mrs. Liu in an impossible position. Marriage meant officially accepting Lily as a daughter-in-law, making her a permanent member of the family. The timing, however, was disastrous. Everyone knew I had been Lucas's girlfriend, and the timeline of Lily's pregnancy clearly showed that Lucas had cheated on me. Publicly acknowledging Lily as part of the family would tarnish the Liu name beyond repair. Especially with my current fame and reputation, it would be a PR disaster. The Lius tried to delay the matter, hoping to find a solution, but Lily was impatient, having experienced hardship before. She wasn't about to let this opportunity slip through her fingers. When the Lius hesitated, she took matters into her own hands, posting intimate photos of herself and Lucas online, accompanied by the caption, "True love endures all. Countdown to our wedding." By the time the Lius discovered the posts, it was too late. The internet had exploded. Users dug up her medical records, ultrasound photos, and even pre-earthquake videos of her and Lucas acting intimately. The evidence of Lucas's infidelity was irrefutable. The public backlash was swift and brutal, with scathing comments flooding in from all sides. But none of it fazed Lucas or Lily. Both were rotten to the core and had nothing left to lose. Lily even responded to the criticism brazenly, saying, "A mistress? The unloved one is the real third party. Love doesn't follow any rules about who came first. We'll be happy together." Because of Lucas and Lily's rash actions, Mr. and Mrs. Liu nearly fainted from anger. But in the end, after weighing their options, they begrudgingly agreed to Lily's demands. They knew they'd face public backlash, and that it would negatively impact the company. But none of that mattered compared to their precious grandchild. They were willing to sacrifice everything for the baby. Their concessions didn't stop there. They even went so far as to reclaim the shares they had gifted me and planned to send Luke back to the orphanage. I could overlook most things, but I refused to let them abandon Luke after everything. I fought hard to convince them to change their minds, but they held firm, clinging to the importance of blood ties. They insisted that they had only adopted Luke because they thought they had no heirs. But now that they had a biological grandson on the way, there was no need for an outsider. I laughed bitterly at their audacity, seeing no point in further argument. I took Luke home with me. My parents, with their newfound free time after handing the company over to me, were more than happy to welcome Luke into our family. Meanwhile, the Liu family's stocks plummeted due to Mr. Liu's selfish decisions, and the company's internal divisions grew sharper. The board members criticized him for prioritizing personal matters over his responsibilities as chairman. His relatives saw an opportunity and began poaching key personnel. In contrast, my career soared. The public's outrage toward Lucas and Lily only fueled their support for me, with countless people rooting for my success. A week later, Lucas and Lily's wedding took place. Despite the lavish arrangements and significant expense, the guest list was pitifully short. No one wanted to tarnish their reputation by attending the wedding of a known cheater and a mistress. Rumor had it that after the event, Lily smashed a jade bracelet worth millions out of frustration, while Lucas messaged me in a fit of rage. "Summer, was this your doing? Are you that happy to see me humiliated? Let me tell you, I will never love you. One day, I'll make you pay." I couldn't help but laugh and replied, "There's a fine line between dreaming and delusion. Use that mouth of yours for something better, or go see a doctor for your brain. Either way, I'm done here." After that, I blocked and deleted him. 2 months later, I received news that Lily had miscarried. The fetus's heartbeat suddenly stopped, and despite efforts to save it, the baby couldn't be revived. Mr. and Mrs. Liu were devastated. They had thrown away their dignity and alienated so many people for the sake of this child, only for everything to end in vain. The company's upper management had grown so fed up with their actions that they were nearly driven out of the boardroom entirely. Frustrated and broken, they started spinning conspiracy theories, accusing me of sabotage. I immediately called the police to investigate. The results, of course, proved my innocence. The hospital confirmed that the baby's genetic abnormalities were the cause, something that couldn't have been prevented or blamed on anyone. The Lius fell apart after this. Both were so enraged and heartbroken that they ended up hospitalized. By the time they were discharged, they found that the company was no longer theirs. Mr. Liu's cousins had taken advantage of the chaos to consolidate power, stripping him of his position as chairman. The stress aged the Lius overnight. Things didn't improve for Lucas and Lily either. After losing the baby, Lucas spiraled into madness, alternating between verbally abusing and physically assaulting Lily. Their constant fighting became a spectacle, further disillusioning the Lius. Eventually, Mr. and Mrs. Liu left a sum of money for them and disappeared entirely. Lily, now flush with cash, became even more reckless. She hired a caretaker for Lucas, a sadistic individual who, in my past life, had tormented me to death. Then she abandoned him completely. It didn't take long for Lucas to meet the same fate I once had. The caretaker tortured him until he died, his body covered in horrifying injuries. He had begged Lily for help multiple times, but she ignored his pleas, calling him weak and difficult. When Lucas's body was finally discovered, the caretaker was arrested, and Lily's involvement was investigated. Lily didn't last much longer. After the miscarriage, her mental state deteriorated. She turned to gambling and drugs, eventually overdosing and dying in her home. Her death shocked no one. When the Lius finally reappeared, it was to arrange Lucas and Lily's funerals. This time, they didn't rush off afterward. Instead, they came to visit me, or rather, Luke. With both their son and grandson gone, they had turned their attention back to the child they once abandoned. But they were too late. "Didn't you hear? Luke's biological parents found him," I said, watching their faces pale. "He's the youngest son of Asia's richest man. He was lost as a child and ended up in the orphanage by accident." After saying this, I didn't forget to show Mr. and Mrs. Liu the latest news reports. Youngest son of Asia's richest man found. Adopted by a kind stranger. Unbelievable fate. A fortune invested in gratitude for the Zhou family. Good deeds lead to prosperity. The unstoppable rise of Summer Zhou. The headlines were dazzling, and it wasn't hard to see the regret dawning on Mr. and Mrs. Liu's faces. They had lost a golden opportunity. If they hadn't abandoned Luke, his biological parents, grateful for their care, would have undoubtedly repaid them generously, just as they were doing for me now. But it was too late. All they could do was offer some insincere compliments about how good deeds lead to blessings, before hastily taking their leave. Watching their retreating figures, I smiled. I was never a purely kind-hearted person. I had known about Luke's true identity from the start. In my previous life, I had seen the news about how the youngest son of Asia's wealthiest man had been found in an orphanage, only to be tragically murdered by an enemy. His death had been horrifyingly cruel. This time, I was determined to seize every opportunity. It was no coincidence that I led Mr. and Mrs. Liu to the orphanage where Luke lived, or that I ensured the director introduced Luke in particular. I had done my homework. Luke had lost his memory when he first arrived at the orphanage, but his intelligence and charm were undeniable. Mr. and Mrs. Liu were always going to choose him. But their selfishness ruined everything. For the sake of a biological grandson, they abandoned Luke without hesitation, giving me the perfect excuse to take him in. If they missed their chance, they had no one to blame but themselves. Lily's pregnancy wasn't a surprise either. In my past life, she had also been pregnant, but due to genetic issues, the baby hadn't survived. This time, history repeated itself. I had even indirectly let Lily know that Mr. and Mrs. Liu planned to cast her aside once the baby was born, which prompted her desperate decision to expose her relationship with Lucas. She didn't care about being labeled a homewrecker. She was only focused on securing her position. She wanted marriage, control over the Liu family shares, and wealth. These were things Mr. and Mrs. Liu could have refused, but they didn't. For the sake of their unborn grandson, they chose to support her, sealing their own downfall. As for the sadistic caretaker, I didn't need to do anything. Lily chose him deliberately, just as she had in my previous life. She knew exactly what kind of person he was but still hired him to care for Lucas, ensuring that he suffered just as much as I had. Lucas's death was inevitable, and I only intervened at the last moment to call the police, making sure his suffering was documented. Lily's drug addiction wasn't news to me either. I had considered reporting her, but she spiraled out of control before I could act. Her overdose was a fitting end. Perhaps, in the afterlife, she and Lucas could keep each other company. Meanwhile, my career continued to flourish. Under my leadership, the company reached unprecedented heights. My parents, with little else to occupy them, began pressuring me to marry and pursue a high-profile alliance. They wanted to dictate my future, but I refused. My father, feeling his authority challenged, tried to take back control of the company to teach me a lesson, but he quickly realized that everything had changed. His influence and reputation had long been eclipsed by mine. Many of the company's employees didn't even recognize him, and his orders carried no weight. First, he resisted, reaching out to former partners and investors, only to be met with indifference. After facing repeated failures, he finally admitted defeat. He realized that I was no longer someone he could control. I was still his pride, but I had become something beyond his reach. This was exactly what I had worked so hard for. In my previous life, was my tragedy solely Lucas and Lily's fault? My parents had played a part too. They didn't actively harm me, but they abandoned me, cutting off my will to live. Sometimes, silence can be just as culpable as violence. During those long years confined to my hospital bed, I realized that if I could position myself as someone indispensable, no one would dare to discard me. No matter what happened, love, family, and friendship can all betray you, but power and status never will. In this new life, my goal had always been clear: abandon all unnecessary burdens and focus solely on building my empire.